The night this all began, the rain was hitting the Harbor Light Hotel like it had a score to settle, and I was tucked behind a row of rented palms, with my son, a purse full of final notices, and a lie I kept telling myself that we were just here to ask about work, not to beg, not to break. You know what I mean. Because sometimes survival needs a story to make it through the door, and then the security guys spotted us. Voices clipped hands on radios, and when my purse caught a fake leaf and those bills scattered across the marble like red-labeled confetti of my worst secrets, my boy. Jamie bent to help and whispered, "It's okay, Mom. We can leave like a 5 3/4-old could carry his mother out of shame with one sentence." And that's when a man in a blue suit stepped into the mess, crouched without flinching, and said, "You two okay?" Like we weren't a problem to move, but people to see. He was Alex Hart. And in that room where eyes weighed us like produce, he made space, waved. The guards off, walked us to a quiet table. Ordered chicken nuggets and chocolate milk for the dinosaur expert. Salmon and soup for the woman. Trying not to look hungry, asked me questions that felt like lifelines, not cross-examinations, and while the wedding swirled, his cousin drifted over in her white dress and wrote a number on a napkin for event work. A groomsman mentioned a foundation contact. Someone else passed along an HR name, and it was like kindness. Decided it could be contagious then. After the lights dimmed, he drove us home, saw the busted street lamps. The stairs that complain with every step carried Jamie without being asked, stood in our doorway and said, "Call Dr. Chen at 8. She's expecting you." The consult and surgery are covered, and I wanted to say no out of pride, but pride doesn't clear a child's airway, so I said okay and meant it with my whole shaking body. The next morning, the receptionist spoke my name like we were old friends. Important patient in the building, and to me like a partner, not a problem. "Treatable," she said, "next week if you're ready." And while my head spun from next week when I had been drowning for 8 months, Alex texted, "Hope it's going well, lunch after, if you can." And at that lunch, he wiped his hands, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I have a job. I think you're built for customer relations manager at Hartwell Systems. 65 salary insurance, a signing bonus to get you breathing room, not charity. I did my homework. Your old manager called you calm under fire." And yeah, I laughed at first, because when the world has only ever handed you ladders with missing rungs, you stop expecting solid steps. But he didn't blink, and Jamie poked me with a fry and asked if working with Mr. Alex meant we'd see him more, and sometimes the truth shows up wearing ketchup, so I signed. Monday, I walked into Gleaming Glass with a thrift store blazer that felt like armor and an ID badge that felt like a vow. Jessica at the front desk said, "Welcome, Lana, like a beginning, not a rescue." My office had real wood and ridiculous light and flowers I did not know how to deserve. And then the work hit, and I fell in love with that, before I fell in love with anything else, because hospitals call when their software stumbles, and fear is the language under every complaint. A clinic's schedule scrambled at noon, people crying in a lobby, a man barking like we'd ruined his whole week, and maybe we had. So I breathed, like Jamie taught me to slow and steady, repeated what I heard, so he knew I was listening, moved 3 teams at once. And 90 minutes later, the thing was untangled, and my hands finally stopped shaking. And when Alex leaned on my doorframe and asked how it felt, I told him the truth, like my work finally paid me back, not punished me. And he grinned and said, "Get used to it." Surgery day. The hospital smelled like lemon and fear and hope. I sat next to Alex, fingers locked around a coffee. I didn't drink, he didn't fill the silence with pretty lies, just stayed beside me like a wall that wouldn't move. Chen came out with her mask tugged down and said, "Textbook, he did beautifully." And my knees almost forgot how to be. Knees. Alex caught me and didn't make a speech about it. Just held on until I could hold myself, then in recovery. Jamie blinked and rasped, "You both came." And Alex said, "Always," and meant it later. He gave Jamie a small bracelet with an emergency ping and told him, "Press it if you ever need me and I will come." And that's what love sounded like in our house for a while. Not a declaration, a plan. The weeks that followed were the kind where you notice the quiet miracles, the way Jamie finally sleeps, deep, the way the apartment seems less loud, because you're not listening for every breath. The way spaghetti at our wobbly table tastes like a holiday, when someone you trust is washing the dishes. And one night I asked Alex flat out about intentions, because a woman who's had promises collapse on her chest learns to label the load, and he said he wasn't a donor, he was in unless I told him to leave. And that's the kind of sentence that makes old fear sit down, but not everyone clapped. When life changed, a senior manager sniffed around my promotion and called my background unconventional, in a tone that meant unworthy, and I looked him in the eye and said, "You mean poor mother cleaner? Or the reason your largest client didn't walk last week, that background?" And the room got very still, then moved on, and Alex let it move on because he knew I had handled it. Yeah, that happened. There was a night in a fancy place with more forks than sense. A woman in glitter I recognized from the wedding said, "You're the charity case," and Alex tilted his head and said, "She's my lead, and that boy is the bravest person I know. Speak with respect or not at all." And the air shifted like a record scratch, and I breathed easier and laughed because sometimes you don't need a fight. You just need the truth to be loud enough to hear. The proposal wasn't a mountain or a helicopter. It was string lights hung in our backyard like stars. We could afford a circle of roses around a swing set. Alex installed because one Saturday, Jamie climbed one at the park and said, "I wish we could keep this feeling." He asked me to marry him and asked my son for permission. In the same breath, "Will you let me be his dad for real?" And Jamie said yes before I could find air, and I said yes because the person he was in small moments matched the man he was in big ones. We got married that December under a tent warmed by borrowed heaters and the body heat of family. Jamie walked me down the aisle like he was presenting a crown jewel, whispered, "Take care of my mom," and Alex said, "I promise," like a vow and a fact at once. And if the story stopped, there neat and tied, you'd nod and forget it by morning. But life actually got better and messier. I became VP because numbers don't care about your origin story if you perform. We partnered with a daycare across the street, so parents at our company could be here and there. At once we had a daughter with Alex's dark hair, and my stubborn chin. Our family found a rhythm that sounded like pancakes, spelling quizzes, bedtime stories, and budgets that didn't choke me. And yet every now and then thunder still pulled me back to that marble floor and those red stamps. So on the anniversary of the night it started, we walked into the harbor light. On purpose, the tall guard recognized us. Or maybe he recognized the weight people carry when they've had to stand in a room that tried to make them small. He nodded and said, "You did good." And I said, "You too," because not calling the cops that night was a choice, and we took a picture by the window with rain behind us and 3 people in front who know what we survived. I won't lie and tell you money erased everything, or success made me bulletproof. Last month a client praised our outcomes and asked if my team could be more professional and less emotional. And I told them, professionalism without empathy is just posture. We don't sell posture here. And the contract still got signed, because sometimes saying the real thing invites the right kind of business. Maybe you think, I should have smiled and swallowed it. Maybe you think I was wrong to crash that wedding. Maybe you think rules keep order. and I walked all over somebody's perfect night. Here's what I know. I walked in because every other door was locked, but I didn't steal anything. I asked, and then I did every single thing I said I would do to deserve what came next. We all did. Alex put his suit on the floor, Jamie put his little hands on my shoulder and told me we could leave if we needed to. And I put down pride long enough to pick up a life. And if you ever see someone bent over their scattered papers in a room like that, don't look away, bend down, get your hands dirty, pick up whatever you can, one sheet at a time. So tell me, was I wrong to walk into a place that wasn't mine? Or was the rule wrong for pretending dignity only belongs to the invited? Have you ever been judged for how you started, then judged again for how you got out? Drop your take, argue with me, share the moment you said a fierce yes to yourself. And if you believe decency should be loud, hit subscribe and pass this to someone who's still standing in that lobby, head down, waiting for a hand to reach into the mess.